What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Cjthecheesedj here, and we are back with another ARK Dinos builds, and today we are taking a look at none other than the Pteranodon. Now, before we begin, I just want to say a huge thank you guys for all the continued support on all the videos. Thank you very much, guys, it means a lot to me, but without further ado, let's get into some builds. Alrighty, so the first and most basic build of all the Pteranodons is the Scouting build. The Scouting build is a build that everyone should have for their Pteranodon. Like, no joke, it is one of the best builds. I mean, it's just common sense to have a Scouting Pteranodon. They are one of the fastest flyers in the game, and they are very nimble. So if you do come across any enemies, you can easily outmaneuver them and fly away from them. Unless, of course, they're on their own Pteranodon, but even so, you can still manage to get away from them by, diving into the forest, hiding behind trees, hiding in the shrubbery, everything like that. You can see there, just like that, we could have easily lost an enemy flyer. Alrighty, so for this build, the first main stat that you are going to need to pump up, you'll find this a recurring theme across all the builds, is stamina. Stamina drains so quickly on Pteranodons. I don't know why, it just does. Now, when you tame up a 150 Pteranodon, you'll find that their stamina is normally between 400 and 500. If you get anything above that, then you've got a really good Pteranodon with lots of stamina. So you want to make sure that stamina is one of the stats that you pump up. You want to get to at least 1,000 stamina with any Pteranodon that you use, like whether it be for PvP, for scouting, for anything. You want to make sure you get to at least 1,000. Now, once you get to 1,000, it's entirely up to you how you want to spend your points from there. You can either dump a few points into weight just to help you, help the Pteranodon deal with, seriously, Cjthecheesedj, we won't even bug you. Just to help with the Pteranodon dealing with your extra encumbrance from any gear you're carrying, or you can decide to put more points into stamina. Me personally, I'd get to at least 1,200 stamina before I think about doing anything else. Even 1,400 stamina is a good call. You can never have too much stamina on a Pteranodon. So we've just spent all our points bar 15 points into stamina on our Pteranodon, and you can see there that he's got 1,408. Now this guy started with, I think, 427 stamina, so there is quite a lot of points into stamina. Now, once you get here, like I said, you can either dump your points into weight or health. For this particular scouting build, I'm going to go with weight, because, well, if you ever come across enemy players and you want to pick them, you can easily pick them and still deal with the extra weight that they have, as well as your own weight. Now, that pretty much sums up the scouting build. That provides you with plenty of stamina to fly around, as well as barrel roll away from any enemies or into enemies if you so choose to. However, still be careful, because if you do run out of stamina or while flying your Pteranodon, you'll have minimum control over it. It'll plummet straight towards the ground, it'll force a landing, and you won't be able to do anything. So take care not to run out of stamina while being high in the air or being near an enemy's base, because you'll find that you can't really do much and you're just going to have to get landed. Now, this next Pteranodon build is the damaging build. Now, this is the one you want to take with you into PvP for sure. Now, once again, you want to make sure that you've got plenty of points into stamina. With this build, it's a little bit more acceptable to have less stamina, I guess. I mean, it's entirely up to you. But for this build, you want to make sure you try and get a high-leveled melee damage Pteranodon. Now, you can currently see this guy's melee damage is just under 400, which is pretty impressive. Like, that is a pretty decent amount of melee damage on a Pteranodon. Now, for this build, you want to pump up stamina for sure. You want to get to at least 1,000, like I said. 1,000 is a nice safe point for stamina for Pteranodons. Once you get to there, I mean, it's entirely up to you whether or not you want to pump up some more stamina, but that normally grants you a couple of minutes of flight, so you shouldn't worry too much. But the rest of the points, you want to kind of split between health and melee damage. I mean, it's more 2/3 melee damage, more 1/3 health. You want to get to at least 1,700, even 2k health. It's up to you and how comfortable you feel with your skills and flying Pteranodons. So you can see there we've just spent those points and we've gotten 1,000 stamina and just over 2,000 health, which is a pretty decent amount. Now, with the rest of these points, you can distribute them between weight or melee damage. It depends on what kind of gear you're running. If you want to be able to transport that gear back to your base, you want to put a few points into weight. And you want to try and make yourself as light as possible. 250 weight is normally a decent starter point, because your gear normally weighs about 50 all up. If you've got some C4, some long necks, a few, obviously you need more than a few bullets, but some bullets, as well as some extra stuff. Now, the rest you want to dump into melee damage, because you want to make this guy as powerful as ever, because you want to try and barrel roll other players. So for example, other players riding Rexes, riding other Pteranodons, Argies, you want to try and barrel roll them to break their armor. Now you don't always have to do the barrel roll, you can just go about picking them, which is also why you've got that extra stamina. Because whether or not you choose to barrel roll or pick, you'll still have a decent amount of stamina to work with, and that allows you to pull off some great things. So make sure that you invest the points into stamina across any Pteranodon. I can't reaffirm this enough. But you can see here the Pteranodon now does 247 damage with this melee damage. The Pteranodon's barrel roll is easily one of the strongest, well, not one of the strongest, it was one of the strongest moves back before they nerfed it. You could annihilate alphas with that stuff. So definitely invest some points in melee damage for the Pteranodon, as well as health if you want to go PvPing with your Pteranodons. Alrighty guys, so the last and final build is probably stretching it a little bit in terms of builds. I couldn't really think of anything else other than what I've covered. However, this build is entirely up to you. Now, Pteranodons, you have access to Pteranodons before you have access to Argentavises because of the level difference in saddles. So you can go about using the Pteranodon to transport items and metals and everything. He's one of the easiest creatures to tame in all of ARK and easily one of the most accessible creatures in all of ARK. So this build mainly is your transport build. Now, once again, you will want to pump up some stamina, not as much as the other builds, however. You probably take it up to about 700 and that would probably do ya. This build is mainly just to make quick trips in between metal nodes and your refining forges. So once you've done that, you know, if they've got decent health, don't worry about it too much. 1500 health is easily enough to work with. Just anything under probably 1000, you want to bump up health a little bit. Now the rest of these points, you mainly want to distribute them in weight, because like I said, you'll be using this guy to ferry goods back and forth across bases and refining forges. Now his weight can get pretty high, obviously not as high as Argie's, but it still can get relatively decently high. Now, okay, that's why you make sure you pump up stamina in your builds. Now, you can see here this Pteranodon has 560 weight. A stack of 200 raw metal weighs 200 weight in a Pteranodon's inventory. That's stacked along with, say, your gear, say your pickaxe, your hatchet, your armor sort of thing. You're looking at about 300 maximum. 300 maximum weight on that Pteranodon. If you've got 559 weight, you'll still be able to fly, and you'll still be able to accomplish what you need. So for example, if I were to just spawn in like 300 stone, you'll see there that will actually get the 300 weight, and we'll still be able to fly relatively fast for a Pteranodon. Now, obviously, you can use the Argies, like I said. However, you don't have access to Argies until I think like level 50-something, I think it is. So, yeah, it's better off if you just go about using your Pteranodon if you've got access to one. So, for example, we've got 200 weight there, 300 weight, we'll say. So you can see there, we've got 320 weight. Now, that is a stack of metal plus our gear, for example. And the Pteranodon is still flying relatively fast. It's still got decent amounts of stamina to use, so you should be all in the clear. And you can see that you can still barrel roll, you can still carry some more stuff. You know, you can probably fit another 50 stack of metal onto the Pteranodon. You can see there, yeah, look, 370 weight, you know, that is a solid amount of weight because, whoa, that makes sense. Now, we don't actually weigh anything in creative mode. So you can see there, let's dump on all the weight. That's 470 weight the Pteranodon has on him. He's obviously not the fastest, but he still can fly. You know, you're probably better off at using an Argie, but like I said, they're not available till later in the game. So guys, that'll conclude the Pteranodon's builds. I apologize for the last one, I was pushing it a stretch. But thank you very much for watching. If you've got any ideas or any other builds for me, let me know down below. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one.